Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast. Let's get into it. Here we are really at the end of 2018, moving into 2019. Not sure when you're listening to it. Hope you had a great year. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Got big plans for next year. We're really going to expand. We got a couple people on the staff now helping everybody out with both the training and the podcast and all the great content that we want to bring you to kind of help you understand what's working today, what we're hearing, what we're seeing working, and getting the most out of the community at b2brevenue.com. Make sure you check it out. I got a free ebook there for you on how companies buy. And today we're going to be talking about, I think, the biggest misnomer and one of the killers that's happening today in sales is that everyone's rushing for the no instead of taking time to get to the yes. Every situation's different. Some people are at different stages of interest. Some people are just cold and don't even know who we are. And what we tend to do is rush to see, hey, are they qualified? Well, a lot of that we can do on the internet right now. We can see if they can afford it. We can see if they are like our other customers. Are they an A, B, or C? Meaning, are they like just a perfect match, or are they a marginal match, or we don't know yet? And too many people are just rushing to get to the no, pushing and not empathizing and understanding what goes on the customer side, on the prospect side. Where are they? How long have they been there? What do they care about? How do I build rapport with them? How do I get to elicit what they're thinking and how I can communicate with them? And I think sales certainly has continued to go in the wrong direction. Probably for the last, I think ever since the CRM became the focus instead of the people, both the reps and the customers. Everyone's trying to reduce the cost of sales instead of increase sales. And we're automating bad behavior. And since everyone's doing it, the effectiveness of it is diminishing greatly. And everyone's struggling right now trying to figure it out. And that's what I'm here to help communicate with you. But before we get into it, I want to make sure you're checking out covideo.com. Video emails is one of the ways of connecting up with people because they want to see that there's a human being. And to build trust, you have to show that you care more about their interest than just your own. And video communicates that so much more than text. Check out their YouTube channel. They're doing a lot of great videos. I'm sharing them on the podcast page on LinkedIn, the Brutal Truth podcast page. You can follow that. And I put out a bunch of funny videos. And I'm also sharing kind of my walk and talks where I kind of break down what I see working today in under 2 minutes. I share them on LinkedIn, but I also post them on YouTube. If you're a YouTuber, just go over to Brian Burns Sales YouTube podcast, whatever. I'll pop out. Don't worry. The other thing is to check out nudge.ai. We need to scour the internet and find the people that are in market that are most likely to be interested in what we do, and how are we connected with them. And that is so critical to do because too often we're just trying to rely on what our product is and does. And that may matter. It might, but it may not. And if it doesn't, guess what? We're going to get lost and blocked out and put into the rep zone very quickly. We first have to understand what the other person cares about, wants to talk about, what we have in common with them, and how to build up interest. It doesn't start where we are. It starts where they are. And that's one of the key things that we have to learn. We're going to get into it today. I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. Please connect up with me on LinkedIn or follow me on LinkedIn. If you really appreciate you telling a friend about the podcast. If you see my content or my pretty face flying by your feed, give it a little like, a little comment, a little share, just a little give back. I work so hard up here in Maverick headquarters, up here in the tower, high above the streets. Let's get into the interview, and I'll sum it up at the end. Hey, Kevin, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, give us a little update on yourself.
Well, great to talk to you, bro. Sorry, can you start over again?
Yep.
Okay, well,
here we go.
We'll get that.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, give us a little update on yourself.
Hey, Brian. Well, I started in sales for Lanier Worldwide, which is today part of Ricoh Corporation, and spent 10 years with them in sales and sales management leadership. And since then have written 3 books, 2 on sales. One was published by Random House called Getting Into Your Customer's Head, and more recently, Slow Down, Sell Faster was published by the American Management Association. And then also just 1 year ago came out with my 3rd book for sales managers called The Sales Manager's Guide to Greatness. So we deliver sales workshops for sales organizations and sales management development for leading corporations in North America.
Excellent. Let's talk about slow down, sell faster. That's kind of a theme of mine, because I think today everyone's kind of rushing for the no instead of taking their time to get to yes.
Completely agree. I start every sales workshop with a question of salespeople, what are the steps of your sales process? And I will just put them right on the flip chart. And, it could be approach, identify needs, present the solution, handle objections, close. Whatever. The answers vary from company to company, but every experienced salesperson has a clear understanding of the steps they go through when selling. But then I ask the question, what are the steps of your customer's buying process?
Yeah.
And does selling match buying? And invariably the answer is no.
Yeah.
And that's where, so it's not that salespeople are doing the wrong things. It's that they may be doing the right things at the wrong time in the buying process. So we want to help them to align with what the customer is thinking. And in certain cases, that means backing the customer up.
And that's it. And I think too often we think that everybody's kind of in the same stage. Everybody's got the same pace, the same urgency, but it's all different.
Yeah.
And, 'cause like an inbound lead is very different than a cold outreach.
Absolutely. They are at different stages of the buying process. An inbound lead is somebody that has some form of what I call a why change need. In other words, they think they have in their mind an idea of why they ought to look at a solution. Now, it doesn't mean that they have a good idea, because that portion of their buying process they probably did themselves internally, and so it may not be well defined, which is why when a salesperson answers that inbound lead with, hey, here's what we offer, here's our quote, a kind of a feature function pricing answer, that's often the last conversation the sales rep has with a customer, because that initial why change need wasn't well defined, and the price is greater than what the customer envisioned the problem was worth solving. And so that's the end of the conversation. It's a great start, but just falls flat on its face. So in this case, we've got to back the customer up and understand the steps of the buying process that happen before we talk to the customer, and expand that need in different directions, which is, of course, something we can also talk about.
Yeah, let's get into that, because especially today when somebody hits the website and converts with their email to get either on the list or get a piece of content, they may just want the content. They may not be interested in the product or even in market. And even when you do talk to them, you got to first kind of gauge, where are they? What prompted this? How far have they gone? Dig into that problem. Is it something that they really care about? Are they curious about it? What do they see as a possible solution to it? When does it become a priority and have any kind of urgency?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you an example. You're describing what I think of as, what is the need behind the need? What's the business need that created this solution need? For example, we work with, one of the leading microscope manufacturers in the world. and one of their salespeople received a lead from the head of a research lab at one of the top 10 universities in the United States, and went out to ask this manager of research, well, what is it that you're looking for in a solution, right? And the prospect said, well, we need to take better quality pictures at higher magnification and be able to take pictures of those images and share them amongst our team of researchers in our network. And that was the stated need from the customer. But when the salesperson probed deeper and said, well, what were some of the changes that were going on here in your lab before, that caused you to start looking at this, and tell me more about the need, and what's really underlying that? Well, what's the cause of why you're taking a look at this right now? A couple questions like that. And then what popped out was, well, we need to be seen as the leading researcher in this field of nanotechnology in the United States. And so the pressure is on us to publish our research faster than other universities and with higher quality, in-depth analysis. And so that was the need behind the need, was to get published, to have this prestige of really being the first to market with new ideas. And if the salesperson doesn't know that need behind the need, then they're unable to connect their microscope's competitive advantages
Yep.
to the underlying or need behind the need. And so guess what? We end up in a price war, because it's kind of a feature function battle, which it's no way to win a profit game.
Well, and that's it. And when we hear you don't have this thing or you're too expensive, that's all noise compared to solving what they really want to accomplish.
Yeah.
And if we don't have that conversation, they're going to push us to who you are and what you do. And that doesn't really sell anything, because they're filling out a matrix, and whoever has the most checks for the least amount of price wins. But that doesn't solve the problem. We've got to dig in, and because they won't expose that, they may not even know it.
Well, absolutely spot on with that one, Brian. They may not even know it. And that comes from the customer's desire to learn, right?
Yeah.
They have this issue. They want to reach out, but they don't understand the entire issue, or they don't understand the ripple effects of that issue. And so, therefore, they don't fully understand the value of solving that issue. And this gets at, customers have kind of a couple different kinds of needs. First is, hey, why should we change what we're doing? In the microscope example, why do we need a new microscope? And then in the next stage of their buying process, they're looking for the capabilities and the relative importance of solution requirements that fulfill their needs in areas of product, support, company, and price. And if we haven't identified all of those, then we're getting ready to do a demo when we don't truly understand, what capabilities we need to emphasize, what questions we need to ask of the customer during our demo. And, then when people that we haven't even talked to show up for the demo or for the webinar, however you sell, they have requirements that may be entirely different than what we're pitching. So it's, you've got to resist the itch to pitch.
Yeah. And how do we do this? How do we make this change from being this product-centric salesperson into selling the problem and digging in? Because customers typically, they really don't want to talk about their problems. We have to elicit that. We have to induce that.
Well, I think one way to get them to open up is to ask them pretty early on, may I ask, whereabouts are you in your decision-making process?
Yeah.
And and then what we have in our sales workshop is kind of a buying process model that gives salespeople a direction or a structure for questioning earlier phases. I don't disagree with you that customers are often reluctant because they think they know what they need, but you know, I would simply advise salespeople to say, if I better understand what happened in the earlier phases of your thinking about this, then I'm going to be better able to recommend the appropriate solution, the best solution for you. So if I could ask you just a few quick questions, and it doesn't have to be another 15 or 20 minutes. I mean, you should be able to get to the critical issues and then ask those 2 or 3 questions, which can really enhance it. So and increase the significance of what we're talking about. But yeah. I mean, what's the alternative? I mean, the alternative is a price war. So
feature, function, product, and that's it. Think about when you bought a car. You don't buy a car for feature functions. Finally I got ABS. It's like,
right.
I've got a friend of mine who got a Tesla, and it's like, oh, it's to save the environment. And it's like, I don't think that's saving the environment. But right, there's all these other emotional technology, gadgetry, how it makes you feel, the 3 levels of why. And what we're at the first level of why, and that's not the truth. You got to get down to some emotional level where they want to, like in your example, they want to be the most competitive, the market leader, because that makes them feel powerful and growing. And if you can then align your product and your process to that, you're connecting with them on what they really care about.
And you are connecting with them in a way that your competitors aren't.
Yes.
And that is pretty important, especially if you are not the first salesperson to talk to the customer. I mean, if they are kind of looking at solutions, there's a pretty decent likelihood they've already talked to at least one of your competitors. And the best way to gain competitive advantage when you enter late in a buying cycle is to identify the need behind the need that the customer hasn't yet recognized, because it reveals that to the customer that your competitor didn't really get at the underlying issues, and then you're going to be positioning your solution in a way that's far more compelling to the customer. And I mean, again, it's for many salespeople, it's counterintuitive. It's like, what? The best way to prove I'm better than my competition is to take them back to the beginning of their buying cycle and help them customer understand needs that they really didn't know they have. And that's it.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just in the beauty contest. And you're up there singing some song, same as everybody else is singing some song. Yeah. And they're like, let's see how you look in a bikini, right? It's like, come on. Now, how does this help increase the amount of urgency in a deal?
Well, we have to understand what – like I was talking to a prospect yesterday, and, we got at the critical issue that they have with their sales managers, which is that they weren't really focused on sales coaching. And so I asked the prospect, I said, again, we help sales managers become better sales coaches. That's another program we offer. But so I asked them, well, if we were able to help you in helping your sales managers to become better sales coaches, what business metrics in your organization that are important to you? I mean, would it impact any of those, and if so, which ones? And out came that they would improve their entry into opportunities sooner. They'd have more prospects in the funnel, they would have less turnover amongst their salespeople, and new salespeople would ramp up to quota faster. And I'm like, wow. And all I did was send a follow-up memo to the prospect and confirm those business issues, because that's the value. And once we can help that customer to reduce their sales turnover, to improve their ramp up time, and improve the competitiveness of their salespeople. And see, customers don't object with themselves. And if I can get the customer to describe the value of a solution that they're kind of thinking about, then it's their vision of value and not mine. Yeah. And it's when we tell them what we think that triggers objections. So,
and it's a way to stay involved in the process, because the classic mystery middle of the B2B sale, from the point of giving a proposal to the time you get an order, that time, it's supposed to be, 15 to 30 days, and it always turns into 90, 120 days, and a lot of radio silence. Because they're viewing you as just a competitor or a product, they've got everything they need from you, so they don't need to talk to you.
Right. Well, they've stopped their learning process, and in many cases, what they're doing now is they're getting other competitive quotes from your competitors. So, why talk to you anymore?
And then there's the classic boomerang thing where they go, oh, we need to do something. And then they sit down and they look at the cost, and they forget why they're doing it. And they go, this can wait. This is we got more important fish to fry right now.
Well, in this case, you could be, every company has limited resources, limited financial resources for investment, right? And so you could be competing in the CFO's office with some solution that's entirely different for you. I mean, if you're selling microscopes, you could be competing with a new CRM solution for that company's sales organization, and the CFO has to sift through these requests for funds from various departments and make some hard and fast rules about, make decisions about which of these business needs is more crucial to invest in. And this is where having some type of documentation of the value or impact that your solution will have on the customer is essential. And again, yesterday I sent what I call a memo of understanding to that prospect I talked to yesterday morning, and it was just feeding back to him, here are the 2 or 3 critical issues that you told me you have amongst your sales management team, and that if you are able to get them to refocus their efforts in become better coaches and teachers of salespeople, it would impact your business in these 3 important ways. And it was a 3-paragraph email.
Yeah.
But now he has the opportunity to forward that email to other decision makers, including the CFO. And when my quote or my proposal shows up, it has a statement of need attached to it. And so, and that's critically important for somebody like the CFO, who's kind of been out of the loop for a while on this, and it has to really understand what is the need behind the need. Why should we choose this microscope over a CRM solution, right?
Yeah, because let's face it, everyone's got a stack of things to do, and what we got to do is get on that top of that stack.
There you go.
Yeah. And let's face it, I don't know I'm sure you've looked at too many quotes that you'd like to forget right now, but every quote I've ever looked at is cryptic, and everyone their eyeballs go to the far right in the bottom corner, right? What's the total amount? And it looks as a cost. It doesn't look like an investment. It doesn't look like a return. it looks like 100% give to get something that's a hope and a prayer that it'll help eventually improve the business.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I think that, you also have to guard against, submitting a 12-page proposal, right?
Yeah. And that's
because
your
they're just going to go to
thing.
Yeah, they're going to go to the last page. But that 3-paragraph thing at the beginning, after the first conversation, I think is a critical component of sales effectiveness today.
And that's it. And I see too many companies focused on, having 300% of their pipe or their quota in pipeline. And I think it's like, okay, you're trying to throw a bunch of stuff against the wall instead of you really applying your intellect to the people who can really buy now, need it, want it, and are conversing with us.
Yes, absolutely. The other advantage of having your salespeople send what I call a memo of understanding is that sales managers can then ask to be BCC'd on those memos and have visibility into what happened in a meeting between a salesperson and a customer and provide better quality coaching earlier in the buying cycle. Yeah. And this is essentially, essential skill, because your sales managers are some of the best salespeople in a sales organization, if not the best, but they oftentimes don't apply their expertise in areas where salespeople most need it.
Yeah. I mean, they come in as firefighters at the end of the quarter trying to repair something that's in a ditch. The tow trucks of sales, I guess. trying to
tow trucks. That's great. The tow trucks of sales. Yeah. Well, the problem is the wreck that they're tasked with towing happened days or weeks before.
Yeah.
And so they're asked to kind of hook up their hitch to something that is already history. And that's too late. That's why they have to have visibility into a buying cycle, into the sales process along the way.
And I think too many reps and managers look at sales as kind of a repair business where we're going in to repair a deal. And so many deals are much better off preventing the bad things from happening.
Yeah.
Because if we respond to the customer, what do? They have questions, they want answers, they want a quote or a demo. Mm-hmm. If we don't push back and engage them, we're falling into their trap. And they don't even know it. They're not consciously trapping us. They're just like they view us as a vendor. Right. And they view all of us as, equal commodities. That's where they get the power, too. Because if it's a level playing field, all you have is price.
That's right. And so how do we differentiate ourselves? I think it's in how we sell. It's in the questions we ask. It's in the approach that we use. Now, keep in mind that many salespeople are simply responding to pressures from above. And when that sales manager arrives with his or her tow truck, it's the upper management that told them to get out there and tow a few deals in before the end of the year. And it's the die has already been cast.
And that's it. Trying to pull that deal out of the ditch is, the car's not going to look the same. The frame's going to be a little bent. It's never going to drive the same. Trust me.
That's right.
So by being able to prevent and plan it, and managers don't do this. They actually enforce kind of the bad behavior. You don't see CRMs with the need behind the need. What's the need behind the need? I've never seen that as a field in a CRM.
That's right. No, this is where looking at your CRM is and on the steps of your funnel, Now, is it organized around the steps of your sale, or is it organized around the steps of a buying cycle?
Yeah.
Because, that ultimately, and that's kind of the title of my book, is Slow Down, Sell Faster. I mean, the speed of selling should be determined by how fast your customers buy, not by how fast you get through your sales process. And so when you slow down your conversations in the ways that we've been discussing today, Brian, you actually speed up the buying process.
Yeah.
Hence, slow down, sell faster.
Yes. Now, tell us about the book and what would people get out of it if they invested their time and money?
Well, they'd get a blueprint, a framework for doing what we've really talked a lot about today, which is understanding the customer's buying process to maximize your sales, asking questions that are directly connected to what a customer either is thinking now or should have thought about earlier prior to our conversation. They'll get really a metric. I mean, the challenge that many salespeople have is they're so steeped in their product and solution orientation, feature function, and they're experts in that becomes a default mode when they run out of the next question to ask, right?
Yeah.
And so guess what? They kind of slip back in to pitch mode, and I want to provide them with kind of a bigger picture. How do we understand what decision makers are? Who else would you need to talk to? What capabilities? What are that decision maker's three most important priorities? Calling a prospect before a demo and saying, "May I ask just a couple quick questions? Who will be in this meeting tomorrow afternoon? And what are their most important priorities? Is there anybody going to be in this meeting that we haven't talked to yet?" I mean, these are just some fundamental skill sets that salespeople need to apply in order to outsell their competition, not get caught by a competitor's tendency to try to defeat you. So
I'm glad that I hear other people thinking the way I do about the pace of sales. That is, we have to first align ourselves with the other person's pace and then build up from it. There used to be this training called probe, align, raise. And the idea is to meet people where they are, align with them, and then raise them up into the level that you'd like them to. And too often what we do is we go, here I am. Let me tell you how great it is to be here. And why don't you come over here and walk with me? And that'll work sometimes. But if it doesn't, we have to find a better way. And I think it's so much smarter to take your time to get to yes instead of rushing to no. Because once you're at no, it's really hard to build back up to a yes. And you're already at no, frankly, with most people. If you get an inbound person, they're interested, they're curious, and you want to find how much they know about you already, who else they've looked at, what problem they're trying to solve. So, hey, I hope you enjoyed that. Please check out the website, b2brevenue.com. I've got two main courses there. One is start the conversation, get the meeting. It's all about this type of thing, where you learn how to start conversations with cold strangers. This is not about how to handle inbound. This is how to go about to your whole addressable market, prioritize people, and start conversations with them. And I've got a systematic way of doing this. It's been insanely effective. You'll hear testimonials at the end of this about people who are having tremendous success with it. It scales, it adapts. We've got now 25 hours of office hours in there of real-world examples. I offer one-on-ones, which is a 30-minute one-on-one with me, and it's included in the course. I turn the recorder on after a few minutes after we cover any proprietary stuff. Then I turn it off and we close up about any proprietary stuff. And then I put it into the course so that everyone can benefit from it. The other course is Closing the Complex Sale. Now, this is once you're in, once you're talking to them, how do you prevent the no decision? How do you prevent losing momentum? How do you predict what's going to happen? And how do you prevent the bad things from happening? And how do you build up your own system so it scales, it's repeatable, and not every deal looks like a snowflake? You start to find the patterns. You start to really hone in your win rate, your velocity, and the size of the deals. And you basically get access for a year. You can pay for it all at once or monthly payments. It's not a subscription. It's a monthly payments. So it's a commitment. And you get office hours, which is twice a month, every other Friday. I put the dates and everything into the office hours chapter, which is the first chapter in there. You also get one-on-ones, which is, a one-on-one 30-minute consultation with me. And it's a great way to build community and to hear what other people are facing, how they're solving problems, and to have somebody there whose only interest is you blowing it away. And why a year? It doesn't take a year to watch the videos, but it does take a year to dramatically change and build up your game. I really, what I call a year to excellence, which is kind of being built into closing the complex sale right now because it's still at an early stage as design. But what we really need is a way of polishing our skills at our pace with other people, where there's some accountability and a real commitment to your profession. Think of all the money and time you spent on college, and where did that get you? Anyways, appreciate everybody's support this year. Make sure you're checking out the show notes. I even put in an email template in there if you want to try and get your manager to pay for it. I'm telling you, you're better off paying for it because then you're personally committed to doing it, to taking action, because it's not just knowing. Everyone can tell you the secrets. The secrets are out there. It's putting together a system that you do, that you take action on, that you can get feedback from other people, that you can see what other people are up against. You can kind of anticipate what's going to go right and wrong. Thanks for listening. Check out the show notes for all the partners. Check out their products. Use the Brutal Truth, all one word, coupon code for both Nudge and Pipe Drive. Pipe Drive's just crushing it. What a great product. We'll see you next time. Hey, so make sure you check out my website at b2brevenue.com and connect up with me on LinkedIn or follow me on LinkedIn. I post videos pretty much every day, little helpful hints and tips, questions answered, reviews of my podcast episodes. And if you'd like to learn more about the training classes, I've got two. One is starting the conversation, get the meeting. This is pretty much to get into new cold accounts. And the second is closing the complex sale. This is basically once you get in, how do you close that deal? So this is all targeted at business to business selling, not business to consumer. You get a year access to the courses all at once from day one, including all the recorded office hours, which is a hour-long Q&A topic-oriented one-to-many Zoom conference that I do every other week that you're welcome to attend once you sign up for the course. And you get one-on-one coaching from me in a screen share Zoom half-hour meetings, as many as you'd like, as long as I can share the content with the rest of the class. And what I do is I turn the recorder on once we start talking about the generic topic. Before I turn the recorder on and after I turn it off, we can talk about anything that's specific to your particular market and sale that you don't want to share. So you get three things. You get the coaching, you get the Q&A with office hours, you get to hear other people, and you get the full access to the content for 12 months. And you can pay for it either all at once in 12 monthly payments. It's not a membership in that you can cancel. It's a payment plan. So it's not a subscription type thing. It's a payment plan. And the idea is that you really need a year to become great at this. You need a year to really invest in yourself. It pays for itself within a week to a month. As soon as you get a net new deal out of it, you'll be psyched. And I think if you've heard the outro of the other episodes where I talk about or the student shares their experience, you'll see they'll get the results. So it's taught by me. I'm the one running it 100% of the time. And if just look at my background on LinkedIn, I sold for 25 years, pretty much the first 10 sales reps into new companies and new markets, all kinds of technology. For the last 5 years, I've been helping companies get into new accounts, win against their competition and beat them out. So if you're in business-to-business sales, it's a great way to learn what works today. If you want to talk it over, I've got a calendar link on b2brevenue.com under the training tab. So just hit training. There's 2 links there. One is to schedule a 15-minute Q&A call about the courses, and the other is to the courses themselves. So it's not just video courses, and it goes really deep with tons of, real-world examples. We've got like 25 hours of office hours there where it's Q&A. People are asking lots of questions and tons of one-on-ones. So you can go through the whole sales process, see how other people are doing it, and really learn a lot. So check it out if you're interested.